All right. On the same day that Big Fran told us that he'd be taking his talents to South Beach, just kidding, the UFC unleashed a barrage of fight announcements, the likes of which we've never seen. All right, UFC 290, the 411 there, they basically reassured us it's Volkanovski versus Y-Rod. UFC 291 on 7/29, July 29th, Poirier versus Gaethje for the BMF title. We got Jan Blachowicz versus Alex Fajeda, Costa versus Ali Skarov. Ferg is back. Tony Ferguson against Bobby Green. Michael Chiesa against Kevin Holland. Even Derek Lewis is on the prelims. This card is so deep. He's got Marcos Rogerios de Lima, Stephen Thompson versus Michelle Pajeda. Pretty sick. I got to give them props for that card. UFC 292 on August 19th. Sean O'Malley challenges Aljamain Sterling for his bantamweight title. Amanda Lemos challenges Zhang Weili for her strawweight title. He also reminded us that Power Slap is back. But, guys, I want to know which announcement stood out to you the most. This time we're going to Goes first.
Well, I mean, a lot of fights get announced and you dive into the rankings, you dive into BMF titles, all that stuff. Sometimes I just want to hear what's going to be a good scrap. And for me, that Kevin Holland, Michael Chiesa fight, that stands out to me because I think that's going to be a lot of fun. Both guys give us good fights regardless of who they're facing. Now you're matching them up together. Kevin Holland, you never know what's going to happen before a fight, right? Like, it's just excitement. It's kind of like that video game fight, right? Like, you have no idea what's going to happen. Both guys want to drag the other guy into their world. And for Michael Chiesa, I think it's kind of important. Like, there's a lot of people that look at Michael Chiesa as a broadcaster now. They forget that this dude was a fighter. He's a good fighter. So I think it's his chance to kind of remind people, hey, I'm back. I can be a menace in this division. And Kevin Holland, if he can continue to show improvement, I think fans are starting to gravitate to him. So I think that fight would be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to that one.
Chiesa, the only tough champion of the only live season we've ever had. I think they went 13 weeks instead of the normal 6 of filming. That year was crazy. Yeah. How about you, Danny? Which fight did you like?
Yeah, obviously the BMF title fight. To be honest, I don't really care much about the belt, but just Poirier versus Gaethje 2 just sounds fantastic. But I want to give some love to Alex Pereira's debut at 205 against Jan Blachowicz. And the main reason is because I was super bummed out when, he lost to Adesanya, and then they're like, yep, the series is over, the rivalry is over, this is done with, he's moving to 205. And I'm like, wait, no, there's unfinished business here. This is not settled. They're 1-1 in mixed martial arts. They got to have a third fight. So I wasn't really very excited about, Pereira going up to 205. But now that he's actually booked in a fight against the legendary Polish power, I'm super stoked. And then just the type of matchups that are out there at 205, I think this is going to be a lot of fun. Also, Pereira hits hard as hell. I can't imagine that his power is going to get even bigger when he moves up a weight class. I feel like he's that type of fighter. So Alex Pereira's career at 205 pounds, I think it's going to be something to watch.
Danny, is it too soon after that vicious KO?
Maybe you could make the argument, right? But we've also seen fighters get, knocked out and then just bounce right back like nothing. This guy is a very experienced fighter. He's a very experienced striker as well. I respect Blachowicz. Obviously, his power is ridiculous, but he's not Adesanya. I feel like if you're gonna find that chin, you got to have a lot of technique behind. And I feel like he should be good here against Jan Blachowicz. At least I have him winning, at least on the odds. So we'll see. I guess time will tell.
Man, last time I checked, Jan Blachowicz packs power too. But all right, I think you're talking about more the accuracy maybe or the skill.
You got to find it, right? You got to find that chin, or what's the power, where does it factor in, right?
Okay. Mike Vaughn, which one did you like?
Obviously, it's got to be Dustin Poirier versus Justin Gaethje, right? Like, this is a fight that we've been calling for since a few months ago. The BMF title twist was something I didn't necessarily anticipate, but this is as good as it gets, right? Like, what an amazing matchup. The first fight between these two was the 2018 fight of the year. They've obviously put in incredible work, only further built on their reputations as two of the great action fighters in the UFC since then. And I think if anyone does kind of warrant a non-title pay-per-view position main event, it's these two guys. And then they throw the BMF title on there. I think these two, I think they have 24 UFC bonuses between the two. So that this is worthy, whether you care about kind of this gimmick belt or not. I like seeing these two guys get honored in a little bit of a way with this matchup because it's going to be an incredible fight once again. I'm curious about how the elevation factor of Salt Lake City factors into this fight. Obviously, Justin Gaethje spends a lot of his time in Denver training there, and I think that maybe gives him a bit of an inherent advantage for this fight, especially given the fact that it's not that far away at this point, right? Only like 8 weeks. So I don't know what Dustin Poirier's plans are for this camp. If he's going to go out there early, all that kind of stuff. I'm hoping to speak with him later this week and kind of ask some of these questions. But yeah, this is a great matchup between these two, and I can't wait for it. If it's anything even remotely close to their first fight, we're in for an absolute treat on July 29th.
All right, one question for each of you, and then we got to move on. Old school goes. Did the UFC kind of counter program Francis Ngannou's big announcement? Because they came a little bit earlier on a Tuesday. We know that matchmaker meetings later in the afternoon, but all of a sudden they had all these announcements to unleash on us.
Yeah, I mean, they absolutely did 100%, but can you blame them? I mean, Francis Ngannou told them exactly when it would drop. It happens all the time in the music world, movies, video games. Why wouldn't they do that? So, I mean, I can't hate the UFC for doing that.
All right, Danny, I got one for you. Should we be even having another BMF title? I thought it was a one-time thing, a few years ago. Are they bringing it back because they really needed that main event? Just running it back, Poirier versus Gaethje 2, that's enough for me. But hey, at the same time, I kind of geeked out when they did the first one, so I probably can get into this one, which might even lead to more subsequent ones. So what do you think?
Yeah, I think they didn't have a title fight ready for that pay-per-view. They usually like having a belt on the poster and just saying, it's a championship fight. So I don't think the belt was really necessary. I feel like fans just look at that fight. I mean, you just have to play the highlight reel from the first fight, and you're already selling that pay-per-view. The BMF title doesn't really add a whole lot to it. Maybe in the UFC's eyes it does, but at least in mine it doesn't. I'm just curious to see how this is going to play out now. Like if a fighter wins the BMF title, it won't be fought for again until they retire, because that's kind of how Dana White placed it. Are we going to get title defenses here? Like what the hell is going on, right? I don't know. That whole thing's weird. And I think he was even asked at this presser for this past fight night, and he didn't really have an answer for it. So I'm not even sure if they themselves know what the long-term plan is for the BMF belt, but certainly interesting.
Well, if anything, it seems like a number one contender belt for this, right? Because you'd have to imagine the winner of this should be
champ versus champ next fight. Champ versus champ.
Yeah, I mean, if they could promote it on a poster with, Islam Makhachev or Beneil Dariush or Charles Oliveira, whoever's the champion at the time, standing there across the guy with the BMF title, it's just more promotional fodder for them at this point.
Yeah, I do got to say, though, if you don't mind me stepping in, George, with Jorge Masvidal retired, Nate Diaz out of the UFC, these are the two best guys to fight for a BMF title, right? If they were to make one, right? We can all agree on that.
Yeah.
What if they did one in 2024? Who's your early lean for that, guys? Can you think of one off the top of your head?
Any division?
Really.
Any division, yeah. Baddest MFer on the planet for 2024. You got to have a little gangster side to you. Your fights have to deliver. So we can't just be going, to the chess masters, if you will, the people that win rounds. I mean, we're looking at the blood and guts type guys and gals of the sport. Anyone come to your head?
Man, if he didn't already have a belt, Jamal Hill is the type of guy that you're talking about, but he's already got a belt.
Mm-hmm.